Thank you. Could you please sit down so we can start the press conference? As you already know, please sit down. Bitte setzen Sie sich, damit wir die Pressekonferenz anfangen können. Bitte setzen Sie sich. Please sit down. Please sit down. And please, during the press conference, don't use the flashlights. Kein Blitzlicht bitte während der Pressekonferenz. Bitte setzen Sie sich. You already have? Okay. Ask me for more if you need. So, welcome this morning, screening in competition on the 50th International Film Festival in Berlin, Magnolia, and have a welcome the producer, JoAnne Sellar. Julianne Moore. And the director, Paul Thomas Anderson. So, your questions, please. Yeah, please wait for the microphone. Could you stand up, please?
My name's Eric Hirschbaum from Reuters. This is to the director, Mr. Anderson. You're taking such a dark look at America. There seems to be a big theme at the festival this year. Do you see such a dark, cynical place in the United States?
God, I don't. I think that I think that my movie is a hopeful movie. I hope, and to get there, you got to show the darkness. So I don't exactly have a cynical view of America. I have, I hope, a rather hopeful one.
Yeah, please.
Ruben Olet from Belgium. You mentioned yesterday that this film is also about growing up with movies. I wanted to ask you and Ms. Moore, in what way do you think that has shaped you as a person, and do you think it's a healthy way to grow up?
I want to go first. I think that, you know, it's sort of just in my DNA. Movies are in my DNA. I grew up watching movies. I grew up doing what movies told me to do. And now that I have the opportunity to make them, it sort of would be a lie if I didn't kind of factor that in. You know, I have lived enough real life, but I've also sort of been so informed by movies that it has to be a part of the movie. I think that's why there's that sort of major element running through where sort of narrator says, and Phil Hoffman says, if this was in a movie, I wouldn't believe it. It's sort of the weird confusion that happens when things really do happen in your life that you've only seen in movies, and you sort of are faced with, how do I deal with this? This isn't just something that I can walk out of. It's something that I have to face. So, you know, is it healthy? I don't know, but I know that that's the way that it is, and I'm just kind of dealing with it and sort of trying to grow up and do all that sort of stuff that makes me a better person. And I don't know. So
I don't think it's unhealthy at all. It's an art form. It's a part of our culture, and like any art form, it's subjective. So when an audience member goes to see a film, they're seeing themselves and their life experience in it. So we're merely you know, part of that cultural experience.
My name is Thomas Christensen, Denmark. I have a question for both Mr. Anderson and Ms. Moore. I'd like to know, Mr. Anderson, you've been working with the collective portrait of a group of people. In what way, I mean, why do you choose this way of filmmaking? And to Ms. Moore, what does it mean for your preparation for the film? Do you, I mean, you have a lot of scenes, you don't work with a lot of the other actors. Do you also discuss things and themes with them, or do you concentrate on the actual scenes that you're in?
You know, it's interesting because in this particular film, we all had our own little movie to work on, and we all worked in like 2-week increments. So as an actor, you have to be aware of where you are within the grand scheme of things, but you really, you know, first and foremost have to concentrate on what your story is, and then you kind of just lend yourself to Paul, and then he's the one that sort of fits it in schematically through the whole film.
The advantage for me is a combination of it's comfortable and allows us to be lazy and not lazy at all. I think the challenge is we don't want to repeat ourselves from what we've done, so we're sort of really on top of making sure that we do something new. But the sort of wonderful lazy part is that we know each other well and really kind of have a good vocabulary. And I write so that I can be around Julianne and Bill Macy, John Riley, Phil Hoffman. I mean, it's really sort of what I do. And in the case of this movie, the actors dictated the form. It was my desire to be around them, which sort of led to so many stories and so many characters. So that's sort of where I'm coming from with it. And I think it, you know, besides that, she's my favorite actress. It's not like I wanted somebody else, you know. Sort of a wonderful thing is that I've found the actors that I love the most. And there are other actors that I do want to work with, but not right now.
Straight on the left, please.
Hello, Mr. Thomas, Mrs. Moore. I have two questions here. What moves a star like Tom Cruise to perform a secondary role? I have three questions, three answers. A, money, B, money, C, both.
So, well, this is a movie that he did for no money. So it was a bargain basement discount, you know, from the Tom Cruise. And, you know, I think anybody's happy to get Tom Cruise in his movie, but they're really happy when he doesn't get paid $1 trillion. So I think the motivation for Tom doing the movie was the part of the script. He called me because he was a fan of Boogie Nights, and when I saw Eyes Wide Shut, I realized really what probably appealed to him. He had 2 years doing that movie. He was such a repressed character, and you know, he had to hold so much in that this part is 180 degrees opposite. So I think that he was really anxious to do something different.
Mrs. Julianne Moore, I don't know if you know today is the Valentine's Day, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? I have a present for you because you're so nice. I would like to give you, you know. I don't know if it's Italian.
That's so nice. That's so
I don't know if it's the first present for you.
It is. It's my first
It is?
Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, please, next question, please.
Like you, I found the film also very hopeful and not cynical, but a bit too hopeful. Like in American Beauty, I don't know if you know.
I've seen it,
Yes. Certainly. Everything is dark, but at the end, everything is love. It's kind of metaphysical sauce.
Right. I really think, but he gets shot in the end of that movie.
What?
He gets shot in the end of that movie. That's not very hopeful.
Yeah, but he's the one who molested his
Oh, you're
daughter.
talking about my movie.
No,
I thought you were talking about
in the American Beauty, yes.
Oh, but
But at the end, he can have a look back to his life.
I get these
Very
molestation
optimistic,
movies
yes.
confused, you know. It's like. I'm sorry, but what's your question?
Yeah.
Do you know your question?
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Excuse me.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
No, do you think that's really kind of American style of doing
You know,
movies? This optimistic kind of movies.
Well, you know, there's a lack of optimism just walking down the street. It's sort of hard enough to get through the day. I mean, I know for me, I like to end a movie optimistically, and I would even lie and cheat and make it phony just to get there, just because it makes me feel better.
But I also think, though, that we have a culture that is predisposed to optimism. I mean, that's sort of what our country was founded on, this idea that anything is possible and that anyone can achieve anything. So I think that's something that's very pervasive in our culture and in our filmmaking, maybe, as a result. I don't know.
What she said.
In the back, please.
Marius Zachary, Enjoy Radio. A more kind of technical questions. Where did you get all these frogs from, and how did you manage the shooting that scenes?
Oh, the frogs came from the zoo. No, I'm kidding. It came from a computer. Yeah. JoAnne, you can talk more about that.
Yeah, most of them, I'd say like 80% of them were from a digital computer. ILM did them. We went to like the best place. We did the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. About the other 20% were like creature effects, and no real frogs were used. So.
Yeah, next question, please.
Annalisa Alfandari from Il Corriere del Ticino. Your movie for the director reminds me a bit of Altman, Shortcuts. Yeah. And I would like to know if you had, which are your favorite directors, if you have one. And it's let me a bit confuse your movie, because I don't know if you wanted also to do a sort of big cinema soap opera, and why?
Well, my idea was that that generally 3-hour movies and epic movies like this are reserved for war films or films of important, social topics. And I thought that it would be an interesting idea to take small relationships, sort of, will I fall in love? Can I go to the bathroom? Will my father, talk to me? This sort of thing, and put it in the context of an epic. And a soap opera is sort of, it is a sort of, hopefully, an intellectual soap opera, a smarter version than most soap operas. But just, I thought it was an interesting idea to put it in the context, because those sorts of things are epic to me. I don't know anything about being in a war, or I don't have a lot of social interests. I have interests about family relationships and these sorts of things, and they're epic to me. So they require 3 hours for me. That was the idea. And the other directors that I like, I love Jonathan Demme's work. I really love, and Max Ophuls, and all the usual suspects, John Cassavetes and Orson Welles, people like that. I love most directors. I love. What?
Altman.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say Altman because you had said it for me. I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I think he's fantastic.
Yes, please.
Hi, Baz Bammy-Boy from England, Daily Mail. This is for the director and for Miss Moore. It strikes me that your landscape in your movies, certainly the last couple, has been the San Fernando Valley. Do you intend to travel out of the valley and make a film elsewhere in the States or anywhere else in the world? And for Miss Moore, can you tell us about the deal on Hannibal? Thank you.
I'll let Paul go first.
They were laughing while you were asking that question, and I think out of necessity for my crew and the people that I work with, I will have to they would like to go somewhere else. So I wouldn't like to leave home very much. I really like it there, and I like to sleep in my own bed when I make a movie. But just to please them, I will probably make a movie in the Caribbean or something like that. I haven't written my next film, so, but in all honesty, I do have a little bit of a desire to move on, but it's my home and it's what I know, so I will never leave it. I'll always return. And
I want to say about the valley, though. One of the things that's really seriously, one of the things that's really interesting about the San Fernando Valley, I think there was an article I read the other day that, I think a person is moving into LA every second. It's the fastest growing area of the United States right now. So it is a place where you have kind of, at once a very normal suburban American culture and a rapid kind of emerging urban culture, and you have almost everything there. It's one of the most American and modern of our areas, and so it is a really interesting place to make films in. No, it's probably just the most quintessentially American place right now, I think, And
it's a place, Los Angeles is a place that's built on fantasy. It's a movie land, So when real life starts to factor into this movie metropolis, things get a little bit weird and interesting.
Yeah. And in terms of Hannibal, I'm very, very excited about it. We're in negotiation, and I look forward to completing the deal. When will we shoot the movie? This summer, I think in May, actually.
Okay. In the back, please.
Hello, Rolf van der Reit, working for Cultural News Germany. A question which has nothing to do with Hannibal at all, which is to Miss Moore, though. Watching the film, I was wondering about method acting, and a certain scene struck me when you were collecting all these drugs for your terminally ill husband in the film. How often can you work yourself up in such a state and stay sane, really? I was wondering about that. How often did you shoot that?
I don't know how many takes we did, but we did in film you shoot sort of one side of the scene, then the other side of the scene, and we shot all of my coverage before lunch, so that was half a day of shooting. And in terms of the emotional stuff, Paul really challenged me. I mean, it was very difficult material, and when I first looked at it, I thought, I can't do this. I just can't. I simply can't. And it was an interesting experience because she is articulating her emotion as she's experiencing it. It's a different kind of emotion or hysteria that I'd never been used to before. And as an actor, it was really exciting. I mean, I really learned a lot and felt very challenged and excited by doing the role with Paul. So I was very lucky.
Yes, please.
Yes, this is Cristina Carrillo from Vogue. This is a question for Julianne Moore. I wanted to know what is your vision of New York, because in the movie it's such a terrible, dark, and you live in New York, so I would like to know what is your vision. And also, the other question is, you say you wanted to do your character more human, because in fact it's very hysterical, so I wanted to know if you could also explain it a little bit more.
Explain my character's...
No, the character you play is like hysterical all the time, but I read, in the press kit that you were saying that you wanted your character to be more human, and that's what you try to do. And I wanted to know if you could explain this a little bit more. Thank you.
I think that probably what I was trying to say is that whenever I work on a character, I find the most human elements in it. I find what speaks to me and what I think other people relate to, and this notion of somebody discovering what they're feeling as they're feeling it and expressing it is interesting, and in that it's based in something that's actually happening to somebody having a personal discovery about who they are. She's a character who is not who she appears to be, and she's not who she wants to be. So it is an interesting and I think a very human struggle when we feel that we've somehow gotten divided from ourselves. So that's what I was looking for in her always, is to ground her in that kind of reality. And in terms of New York, I love New York. I think there's it's my home, and it's the one place in the world where I feel like there's a sense of any possibility of anonymity and community at the same time. I mean, I really feel very much at home there. It's not scary at all.
Yes, question in the back, please.
Hello, I'd like to ask Ms. Moore what you think about female parts in Hollywood film in general and your own parts, because I could be a bit sad when I look at the American women in the movies.
You mean in terms of how women are represented in film? Well, I think that there are obviously lots of different kinds of people represented in the movies. In terms of, are you talking about like there being more men, or I'm not too sure what the question is.
Yeah. Next question, please.
In terms of roles for women?
Pardon me?
You mean in terms of roles for women? What's available
yes,
for us?
The roles of women and the roles that you have had in the 90s. If you look at this film and other parts, yes.
I think I've been very, very lucky in terms of the roles that I've had, because they've been pretty interesting and fairly diverse, and I've worked with some brilliant directors, so I feel like I'm very lucky. In terms of good roles for women and good roles for men are very hard to come by, because obviously if the film business is based on economics, and some people aren't interested in making movies generally about people and ideas. It's usually about something that's exploding. It's going to make a lot of money. So it's very difficult to find good roles for anybody, but I think that they're out there. I really do.
Thank you. Because Cassavetes said that the American society was made to make women crazy.
Who said that?
Cassavetes.
Really? That's funny.
That's good.
Hi, this is a question to the director. Maybe I missed something during the movie, which I liked very much, by the way. Why is it that frogs are falling down from the sky? This actually is never proven. It's just one of those crazy coincidences you talked about in the beginning of the movie. Was this just some nice idea of saying, hey, let's do something really creepy and freaky? Or what does it prove? What does it do? Or is it just some fancy idea? Because I didn't get it somehow.
Yeah, I was just trying to be cool. We wanted it to be cats and dogs, but we couldn't afford it, so...
In the back, please.
Hi, I'm Antonio Moreno from the Public Spanish Television. First of all, congratulations for your powerful movie. And I'd like to know something more about the making of the soundtrack. and your relationship with truly gifted musicians as Amy Mann, Michael Penn, and John Bryan.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can talk forever about it because the music really came first in the case of this movie. After Boogie Nights, I wasn't sure what I wanted to write. I had a lot of ideas in my head, and Amy Mann had some music. She's a close friend of mine, and what I set out to do was adapt her music into a movie, like you would adapt a novel or a play. So that was a sort of starting point for me. And the music really dictated the movie, not just the themes of the movie, but really the structure of the movie. And John Bryan is a composer who produced all of those songs, as well as all of the music in all of my movies. And he did a wonderful job creating basically 2 full symphonies of music for this movie. It's really sort of a remarkable job. Quite an undertaking, and you know, the wonderful thing is that I'm very close with him, so it's not sort of really an after-the-fact situation in creating the music. Usually, music is sort of placed in after the fact. I sort of knew the rhythms and tempos that I was going to be working in when I was shooting the movie, so we would just sort of shoot it very specifically to that. The camera moves were designed around the music, and I don't know. I think I'm a frustrated musician. I don't know how to play music, but I know what I like, and it generally dictates the movies that I make. Thank you for your question.
For
Also
Mr. Anderson, no offense to Altman, but I actually think your movie is better because it has much more warmth. But, well, you don't have to comment on that. But I would like to ask you about the title, Magnolia, without destroying too much of the poetry of the title, if you could explain it a little. And then about the frogs, I hope I'm not mistaken in seeing them as sort of a biblical cataclysm, like the plagues that struck Egypt. I think it works tremendously well, but I would like to know if you've been a bit scared, whether it would be too much or whether it wouldn't work, and relieved when it did work.
Well, if I was scared, I don't think I would have made a 3-hour movie that rained frogs. I think, fortunately, I had blind, fearless energy going into the movie, and I get nervous to talk about the frogs or the title because of what you said and any sort of poetry that you might have responded to in it. And making sure that you don't hate me in the morning for violating anything that you might think. And I generally don't like it when directors do that, but I feel okay about it because I feel like I have said enough in the rest of the movie. So if you really want to know, we can talk afterwards. I don't know.
In the middle here, please.
Question to the director. Your film brings up deep emotions like loss, grief, hate, anger. Did you go to some of these emotions? Because I ask this because you are 30 years old, as far as I know. Did you experience some of these emotions? Because this film is very deep and some very private emotions.
Well, I'm 29. I have to stay in my 20s. I think the movie is very private. Without being too private, right now it is very private, and it's really such a personal movie, and I think that I always aim to write what I know and what I've been through and what I want to be, and that's the best way that I can describe it. These are all things that I think, regardless of my age, I think, you know, remember being a baby and feeling these same emotions. So I don't know. Thank you for your compliment, and I don't know, but I don't think that I'm as tortured as the movie might present me to be.
Straight on the right, please.
Mr. Anderson, I'd like to ask again something about the rhythm and the music of the film. In the first half, there's a very high-paced rhythm and lots of music, and then in the second half, there's some bit of a breakdown. Weren't you afraid to somehow lose the audience there?
Yeah, I was completely scared of that, and it was a gamble, you know, that I took, thinking that I don't think that you can make a 3-hour movie without the use of music, a major use of music. I don't think, no matter how fascinating the characters are or anything else, it's a long ride, and it has to be propelled, and the propeller is the music in this case. And it was a risk to sort of propel the movie along and let it fall off a cliff. And hopefully what it is a very calm, quiet time before the storm happens, literally before the storm happens. And it is a risky thing when you're 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2.5 hours into a movie, to suddenly slow it down and have these long sort of quiet scenes with no music at all happening. But the goal is that if you do that and if you stick with the movie and it is that quiet, that when it gets loud again and when the frog hits, hopefully it will be that much more enjoyable and you can get that much more enjoyment out of that first frog splat, you know? Hopefully that's just sort of like a rhythmic thing, you know? It's sort of just a bridge in the movie, you know, that can sort of launch you into the last chorus. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's a tricky thing, and I hope that I pulled it off. Thanks for your question.
Sadly, we don't have the time as long as the movie for the press conference. So thank you for Julianne, and Paul Thomas, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you.